If I had to sum up today's entire video in a single word, it would be soft, derogatory, because Gen Z is apparently soft. I'd say you heard it here first, folks, but the truth of the matter is, at this point, you've heard it everywhere. Parents, bosses, even other members of Gen Z are apparently just jumping at every chance to let us know how soft this generation is. Nobody wants to work, everybody wants a mental health day, and everybody on the internet seems to have an opinion about this. So I thought it would be fun to dive into these opinions, because like everything on the internet, instead of a productive conversation, it's more of just like, are you in or are you out? As you're going to see from some posts and videos floating around TikTok, Twitter, and the larger internet sphere, people get very heated about this very quickly, but I still think there's quite a conversation to be had. But first, welcome. My name is D'Angelo, and I am your professor of illuminated manufacturing protocols, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe this is just me broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. And today we're going to come together and answer the age-old question, why does nobody want to work anymore? Spoiler alert, this idea has nothing to do with Gen Z or any generation at all, but yet that hasn't stopped everybody from blaming us. I like to start this off by saying I find most distinctions between generations to be quite arbitrary and usually overblown and overemphasized to the point where people seem to forget that there aren't really very many new problems. Rather, I think the same few problems just take on new meanings and terminology as cultural norms update over time. For example, did you know that nobody has ever wanted to work? Allow me to direct you to this very popular Reddit post. So in 2022, 1 in 5 executive leaders agreed with this statement. No one wants to work. This is quite similar to 2014 when people asked, what has happened to the work ethic in America? Nobody wants to work anymore. It has not always been that way. Narrator. But it had in fact always been that way. 2006, 1999, 1981, nobody wants to work, nobody wants to work, nobody wants to work. I do think my favorite is definitely this quote from 1979 in which nobody wants to work anymore is attributed to disgusted businessman. If I ran a channel that exclusively covered like business related things, I would just change my username to Disgusted Businessman. It's so good. But instead, I run a channel where I've talked about 16 different things in a row. And the only connecting tissue between any of these videos is how good I look in each of them. Anyways, 1969, 1952, 1940, 3722. I think we get the point that even as far back as 1894, it was becoming apparent that nobody wants to work these hard times. Oh, were times so hard because it was 1894 and everything sucked? You know what that sounds like? It sounds like you were a soft generation. Do you need a mental health day? Probably. Probably. I feel like if we had mental health days in 1894, society would look like this right now. Like we would be so in our bag. But unfortunately, it took us a few thousands and thousands of years of human history to figure some of this stuff out. But despite these centuries worth of people complaining about this, some people would have us convinced that this problem is uniquely endemic to our times. These hard times in the 2020s. But hey, don't take it from me. Take it from Kim Kardashian.
I have the best advice for women in business. Get your up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
That's so true.
This is literally me when someone's talking and I'm just trying to agree hard enough so that they'll stop.
That's so true.
That's so true. Period, Kim. Oh, you ate with that. But make no mistake, it's not just millennials like Kim K calling us out. As noted, even Gen Z is in on the criticism.
My generation, I think, is honestly the worst generation.
That's so true.
I think the problem with my generation stems from everyone started working a lot later than other generations previously. I started working when I was 14. But a lot of people my age didn't start working until they finished college.
I was just thinking to myself, maybe we should have kept child labor. You know what? She's onto something.
Everyone works 8-hour days, 5 days a week, full time. That's how it is. And life isn't fair. So if you're my generation watching this, just get a job.
Oh, I think I'm in her generation, guys. YouTube career is over. Got to get a real job now. See you guys in the coal mines. Wait, no. YouTuber, miners. I don't like where this is going. Let's just move on. Gen Z is soft. I've yet to meet one that doesn't just give up when stuff gets hard. They blame the world and go on antidepressants. I feel like antidepressants are good, actually, considering the alternative is like depression, but maybe that's a hot take. I'm in your generation. Started working at 13 and now I work 50 plus hours a week at 22. Has nothing to do with generation. Has everything to do with how what? Oh my god, they got him. This person was about to spill the secret sauce. Or maybe they just got lazy and didn't finish. After all, they are 22. But oh, a dissenter. I work because I have to, not because I want to. If I could support myself without working, I would do it. I don't care if people think I'm lazy. Turn to the streets. You know what? That's not the advice I would have given, but it is advice, and that's more than everybody else was offering. And you know, despite parts of this person's messaging that may muddy the signal a little bit, like claiming that one generation is outright the worst, if I just listen to the underlying sentiment, it's not expressing a desire for the status quo to remain the same, but rather it seems like a criticism of people's inability or lack of desire to put up with the status quo. And in many ways, I suppose that's not even really untrue. Most people don't seem to cope very well with the idea of having to work 40 hours a week under very specific conditions. But objectively, people do still have to work. And thus, we wind up with workplaces in which bosses are not happy with the attitudes that they're seeing. You get situations like this Dr. Phil interview, in which a business owner worried about Gen Z work ethic confronts a person who is proud of having a quote, lazy girl job, aka something Wikipedia describes as an easy, usually white-collar job with good pay where an employee can quiet quit. And don't worry, anybody of any gender can have a lazy girl job, a term which entered the mainstream consciousness via TikTok.
I'm not going to overextend myself and bend over backwards for companies who don't take all the little nuances of being an employee of theirs into consideration.
But where this person may see nuance, I think the employer sees annoyance.
People notice excellent work, and with that then comes opportunity for growth and career advancement. And so people in your generation look at it as they're not paying me and they're not going to take my time and steal my time, but it's really an investment in your future.
Yes, you may be working yourself to the bone for me, but you're also doing it for you.
You're representing the woman of today and the woman of the future. Younger girls are now seeing, hey, you know what? You're going to get kudos for doing the bare minimum. It's the total wrong way to work at life as well as a career.
I love the audience clapping for that. Like, yeah, you blame that young person for misleading an entire generation of girls. Meanwhile, you are actively misleading her about the benefits of going above and beyond. Because honestly, I had jobs before YouTube, and here's something I do remember. Employers will notice if you put in more than the bare minimum, and then they will require it from you and make it your new bare minimum. Going above and beyond is actually so detrimental to your mental health in the long run. They say Gen Z is lazy because they won't go above and beyond. That's because they watched the millennials destroy themselves going above and beyond and said, nope. The problem with above and beyond is there's no ceiling, right? No one's ever going to stop you and say, you've done enough. They're only going to push you to do more. But wait, why am I being empathetic right now when empathy is soft? What I meant to say was all of y'all are lazy. Gen Z, lazy. The bosses on Dr. Phil criticizing the Gen Z girl for not working, lazy. They should have been working. Why are you as a boss not in your place of work right now? But it turns out Gen Z is not just lazy. They're also unprofessional.
Okay, I'm gonna take lunch. What do you mean I have to wait till 12? I'm hungry now. Why would I wait till stupid? I'm gonna go now, okay?
And the attitude that this person is parodying is very real. We've all heard of a 9 to 5, right? Well, an 8 to 5 isn't that much worse. And Gen Z is so unprofessional, they don't even want to put up with that.
When asked to come in for an 8 a.m. meeting, my Gen Z new hire said, ugh, sorry, I can't make it. I have a workout class. Should this be allowed?
My visceral reaction was, are you kidding me?
No, fully, like angered, typing this out. I was like, please.
Like my hand's shaking and it's not from the caffeine.
When I first saw this, I assumed that this had to be a joke, right? Two people whose job appears to be podcast complaining that somebody didn't want to come into work at 8 a.m., which we can all assume is not within normal working hours. But no, I think these people were like fully serious.
You just started this job. I don't give a flying about your workout class. Also, an 8 a.m. workout class is too late. Work out at 6, maybe 7.
My hands are fully shaking right now from the anger. No, I think that's a 12 Red Bulls I shotgun before this video. This is a joke. The only thing we shotgun in this household is water. If you are watching this video and you are not hydrated right this second, we have beef. Go, drink some water right now. I will wait. Okay, I'm bored of waiting. Let's talk about how Gen Z is the worst generation to work with. 40% of respondents to this survey that Newsweek invented for this article identified Gen Z as the most difficult generation to work with, including Gen Z themselves. In your opinion, members of which of the following generations are the worst to work with? That question is crazy. Gen Z is also apparently the hardest to manage. What a surprise. The youngest group of people is always the hardest to manage. It's what you would expect. This is the first generation raised with cell phones. Well, you can't beat that logic. So I did have a cell phone as a child, so that might explain some of the softness. But I also was made to get a job at one point, even though I was a minor. Child labor's back on the table. But don't worry, I wasn't paid. Wait, not all employers are tolerating Gen Z's laid back language. All right, let's get into it. I want to see some of this language. Anna, in her mid-20s, was fired 4 months into the job because her manager cited a lack of professionalism, including her frequent use of filler words like and totally as a contributing factor. So the laid back language that's bothering y'all is talking like a normal human being. Anna's supervisor said she didn't come across as an intelligent person who should be working at a top hedge fund, and that her demeanor didn't fit the firm's image. Anna was devastated. No one told me beforehand what to say or not say, and everyone my age talks this way. How was I supposed to know? So not only do you have to work an 8 to 5 and go above and beyond, that way you can lead the next generation of children into the mines, but you also have to talk the talk, you know? Wait, I shouldn't say, you know. Do you concur with that sentiment? If y'all want robots, just say it. Like, at this point, we would save a lot of discourse if employers would just come out and say, we want emotionless robots that can work infinitely. Labor laws? Sounds like some labor suggestions, if you ask me. Speaking of laws, you know what I think should be illegal? Ghost jobs. What the rise in fake job listings says about the current job market. And why are companies posting ghost jobs, aka these fake job listings? For completely normal reasons, like tricking the employees into thinking that the business is growing and making an effort to hire more workers and alleviate their existing workloads. Or in some instances, hiring managers said their goal is to signal to current employees that they are replaceable. But then you're wondering why nobody wants to work. Not only is it just so annoying to all the people who are working, but repeatedly touting nobody wants to work when there are so many people trying to get a job, but not succeeding because finding a job is getting harder even in a strong labor market. According to CNBC, this whole debate is just completely out of touch with reality. Nobody wants to be mistreated. Nobody wants to be made to feel replaceable or told what to do for literally no reason. A lot of people are trying to work whether they want to or not. But when you have insulting things like fake job listings muddying the waters and people just not getting hired because the job market is a mess, and signs are only pointing to things getting trickier in the future, I think we can safely replace nobody wants to work with nobody wants to hire. Nobody wants to pay. Nobody wants to treat their workers like human beings because they literally do not see them that way. I remember once just wearing my work uniform, scrubbing a toilet in a gas station and thinking to myself, every single aspect of my humanity has been treated as an impediment. My managers have made every single aspect of my personality feel like some sort of impediment to their end goals. And they are surprised that I don't seem happy to be here. Or at least that's what I'd like to say I was thinking while I was scrubbing toilets, but it was more so like, just close your eyes. If you don't see it, it's not real. And the truth of the matter is, I wake up every day and I am just grateful that I'm not still there. Not literally still there, like cleaning the bathroom of a gas station. Because obviously I would have gone above and beyond and become the manager. And then eventually the owner, right? That's how the American dream works. And honestly, now that it has been 6 or 7 years since that time period, when I was fresh out of college and could not get a job no matter how hard I tried, and I was dealing with a slew of mental health issues, I'm still glad that I had that experience before I got even a single view on YouTube. Not because I think I should have had to have worked, because everyone has to work, but because I would rather be able to sit here and understand people explaining why we should not have to do this. I'd rather say, yep, I clean toilets and I've sold people cigarettes and I've stocked freezers and I've done everything I had to do to keep myself afloat. And I've been that worker and worked with so many people my age. I would never blame us. We did not do any of this. And I honestly think that if I did not have that perspective, then I would be the one sitting on the podcast or like dressed like Kim K talking about how nobody wants to work anymore. I mean, I could dress like Kim K if I wanted to. I think I would actually look really good, but that's not the point. And the reason I've thought about all this is because I saw this article from Business Insider called Generation Call in Sick. Americans are taking a lot more sick days and Gen Z is leading the charge. And I was just reading how like Gen Zers are setting a boundary. That boundary is not being at work when they're not feeling up to it. People are taking more time off from their jobs. The amount of sick time and extended leave has increased over the years. There's just a generational shift towards balancing work life. And I read this delirious at 6 a.m. and I was like, good. A premium is now being placed culturally on caring for oneself, and people taking more sick time is not a solution, obviously, for the problem, but it's definitely sending a message to the employers. As much as other people seem to want to go on Dr. Phil and complain, I do genuinely see Gen Z standing up for themselves in a very Gen Z way. And not only do I appreciate it, but I genuinely believe that everybody's going to wind up appreciating it, whether they came before us or after us. There's this clip circulating around a lot right now where Jenna Ortega, Wednesday from Netflix, as many of you may know her, she was with absolute legend Winona Ryder doing a photo call for their new movie Beetlejuice. And while the paparazzi were paparazzing, one of them demanded that Winona take her sunglasses off so they could get better photos. And Jenna was like, Winona, broski, you are literally Winona Ryder. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. There's no hot mic, but if you're eagle-eyed, you can see her say, no, you don't have to. And I kind of see this interaction as like, I guess, a metaphor for this entire debate. Because Winona Ryder is already like a legend. In many ways, she was the blueprint and a trailblazer in her own way. Winona Ryder ran so that Jenna Ortega could also run. I don't think anybody's walking here. She a runner, she a track star applies to both of them. But even though Jenna Ortega did not invent the concept of being cool, I guess, it was very clear that in this moment, Winona Ryder still had at least a little something to learn from somebody who came after her, right? That's why the video has 4 million views, 223,000 likes on this retweet. It's a positive thing. And that is kind of how I see what Gen Z is doing here. This should never have been a scenario where people were raging at us for daring to have an opinion on how unfair a lot of the job stuff is. Clearly, from the decades and decades of disgusted businessmen, we did not invent the concept of not vibing with the status quo in relation to work. But at the same time, I see people standing up for themselves in a very Gen Z way that I think we could all stand to pull something from. But nevertheless, if you find yourself in a position where somebody is just arguing with you about how Gen Z doesn't want to work and nobody wants to work anymore, I'll give you the perfect response. You have a 100% success rate of winning the conversation if you use this one. Just look at them with every bit of malice you can muster and say, you're so right. But that's my take on the situation. Dave's take is that he's been working 24/7 for the last 500 or 600 years, and you've never heard him complain about it. But I've tried to explain to him that simply existing while being a work of art doesn't really equal having a job. Because if it was, I would be able to claim literally everything in my life as a tax deduction because I would be on the clock 24/7. And of course, I'm excited to hear your take. I mean, this is the part of the video where a layman would tell you to subscribe, like the video, or leave a comment. But I will ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and submit your feedback. Because I am running a 100% completely, totally, mostly, maybe somewhat unaccredited university. Definitely. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. We're totally legit. And as for me, whether you'll see me in 24 hours or 24 months is anyone's guess. But until then, thanks for watching. Your homework for today is to get off your butt and work on taking care of yourself. And if that involves just staying there on your butt, then knock yourself out.